gather in Doha for the Qatar Economic Forum powered by Bloomberg. Join heads of state, influential ministers, and leading CEOs to make new connections, gain unique insights, and uncover valuable opportunities in one of the world's most rapidly rising regions. Request your invite for this exclusive event at QatarEconomicForum.com.
Coming up next on Bloomberg Business Week, we're going to check in with the CEO of a company that operates more than 200 hotels in Mexico and the Dominican Republic. We're going to get a good idea of how travel has bounced back after the pandemic.
It's 4:21 on Wall Street. We do check markets all day long. Here at Bloomberg, just getting word that United Airlines is calling off an investor meeting that had been scheduled for early next month because it would, quote, send the wrong message to celebrate its performance in the wake of a series of headline-grabbing safety incidents. UAL down today by 0.1%. Turned out to be a losing week for the U.S. stock market. On the week, down by 1%. An up Friday, however, a jobs Friday with the S&P up 57, ending the week, heading into the weekend at 52.04, up 1.1%. The Dow up 307, up 0.8%. Nasdaq up 199, up 1.2%. 10-year yield 4.39%. The 2-year yielding 4.78%. Spot gold up 1.5%. 23.24 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude today up 0.1%. 86.71 for a barrel of WTI. Bitcoin down 0.7% at 67,461 on Bitcoin. Again, recapping, stocks higher, losing week. S&P today up 57, a gain of 1.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Mexico, I've never really been, so I don't really know.
They're telling us that we can start talking now. Paul's telling us, but who doesn't want to listen to Lil James Taylor?
And who doesn't want to just go to Mexico?
Yeah,
I've been there many times.
I've been there too, and you know what? It probably doesn't surprise any of you that it's regularly the top destination for Americans who travel abroad. In 2022, which is the most recent year that data is available from the International Trade Administration's National Travel and Tourism Office here in the U.S., outbound travelers from the U.S. to Mexico increased 17% from 2021. Still, though, that was only about 84% of the level in 2019 pre-pandemic.
Well, no doubt about it. Tourism, of course, incredibly important to Mexico. According to the OECD, it accounted for 8% of national GDP and 5.8% of the total workforce in 2019, which was, of course, the year before the pandemic, which is why it's an important metric to point out.
Jose Carlos Azcárraga is CEO of Grupo Posadas, which operates more than 200 hotels in Mexico and the Dominican Republic. More than 30,000 rooms spread across those different properties. Jose Carlos joins us from Miami. How are you?
Hi, how are you? It's pretty good to be here.
Yeah, we'd rather be on vacation in Mexico, I'll be honest with you. But hey, getting to talk to you is pretty good as well. Hey, how's business right now?
Actually, we're doing pretty good. We're happy of what has happened since the pandemic. We are definitely doing much, much better. I heard what you said, but especially on our company, that's not the case. Right now, we're about 30% above what we were pre-pandemic. So we're doing better. We're growing. We're very happy with what we are. And yes, the U.S. market has a lot to do with exactly what's happening in Mexico.
How much is the U.S. market, Jose, that ultimately are at your various locations?
Yeah, it really depends on the location, but if you look at the leisure resorts, the Cancun, Los Cabos, Puerto Vallarta, it's regularly more than 70 or 75% of the people come from the U.S. Out of the, let's say, 85% that are international, most of them are from the U.S.
You know, it's interesting. We have a colleague here. I'm not gonna mention it.
Okay.
But again, Carol and I have been to Mexico many times. But for some reason, for safety purposes, he refuses to go to the country on vacation. He avoids the country. And I'm wondering, and there have been in the past State Department warnings against American travelers traveling there. And I'm wondering to what extent you think about that with guests coming from the United States, because there have been reports of kidnappings. There have been reports in some of those resort areas that you mentioned of crime, mostly of petty crime, especially in recent months. How are you watching that, and how does that affect your business?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely is a factor, but you have to understand that especially on touristic destinations where there's, the hotels that we have in our system and everything, you would find that things are very similar to what you would ever find in different parts of the world, no? I mean, we're happy with the way that things are developing right now, and naturally you have to do a much better job convincing your colleague to travel to Mexico, because probably what you already experienced is what's going to happen. Until you go there, you see, you talk to the people, you really live the experience, you find out that many times what you listen in the news is not really what you're going to see when you get there.
I will say the State Department does currently have a travel advisory for Mexico. It's a level 2 of 4, which says exercise increased caution, and does say that violent crime is widespread and common in Mexico.
All right, so I do wonder, though, for anybody who has had to endure, which is the whole world, the pandemic and come out of it, remind us of kind of what it was like for life for you guys during the pandemic and then coming out of it. Like, what's been the changes that you guys have noticed, and maybe the changes that you do now differently in terms of your business because of it?
No, I mean, definitely it was a very tough period, as any tourist company would tell you around the world. But I think that it was also a great opportunity to understand and to learn. I mean, I think that all companies should be able to learn continuously, and that's something that happened to us definitely during the pandemic. As you probably are aware, if Mexico was less restricted and allowed travelers to go to Mexico more than many other countries. So what happened is that 35% of the people that went into Mexico went there for the first time. And we know what happens with people that go to Mexico in the first time. They want to go back. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now in our hotels. People that got to know Mexico recently, and they're very happy with their experience, and definitely they're coming back. But I'm sure that there are lessons of resilience, of flexibility. Obviously, we learn how to adjust our service, our operations, to really think about what gives value to the customer, and how can we provide a better experience for them. And obviously the market changed. I mean, it's not only on the tourism side. I think that it was pretty much all across, where you start looking at people that are wanting to live experiences, not necessarily to buy things. And when you talk about experiences, many times what you see is, I want to travel.
Yeah.
I want to spend time with my friends, my family. I want to go. I mean, even if I went on a business trip, I want to have an opportunity to get to know the city, to live gastronomy, to have a chance to really focus on yourself. And I think that that's something that has happened in the market, and definitely it's something that we will continue looking into the future.
You have brands that really run the gamut. You've got brands like Live Aqua, Grand Fiesta Americana, IOH, Fiesta Inn, Gamma, One, just to name a few of them. So the brands run the gamut. I'm wondering where you're seeing it within the spectrum of demographics you're seeing sort of the most opportunity. Is it the higher end traveler? Is it the young family? Where are you seeing the most opportunity right now?
Yeah, as you were saying, I mean, we have 8 brands, so we're pretty much scattered from economy hotels all the way to luxury hotels, and from city hotels all the way to resort hotels. So we're pretty much all over. And I would say that the growth is pretty much in general, but I would point out 2 things that are happening. First of all, it has to do with resorts and luxury. If you look, for example, right now we have about 13,000 keys that are under development, and out of those, only 58% of those are on the resort business, and 20-something% out it's on the luxury urban side of the business. So we see definitely a growth more in luxury and resorts than anything else, and that's, I mean, we like that because that's where we're performing much better than our competitors, so we're happy doing that. But I also see the second factor, which is nearshoring. No, I mean, you start finding out that a lot of the business going into Mexico as investment, that produces the interest of many hotel companies to develop hotels, because at the end of the day, that creates a supply and demand for a hotel business. We're looking at investments that are happening not only in the northern side of the border, but pretty much across all Mexico, where you see the potential of growing in hotels. And so honestly, it was pretty much all over, although we're much more focused right now on luxury and resort business.
Hey, listen, you obviously look for growth, you look to expand and stuff. How are you doing that specifically, whether it's through the REIT market? And I am also curious about, international investors, the interest in how the higher rate environment has impacted you, certainly the higher rate environment here in the United States.
Yeah. Look, there's something that we changed in our company. That again, we've been in business for 60 years, and something that we recently, I would say 15 years from since then, we changed, is that we have becoming a much more an asset-light type of company. When
right.
We not necessarily invest in the hotels by itself. Usually those are owned by third-party investors. Some of them domestic, meaning Mexican investors, and some international, also U.S. investors. And what we're trying to create is, that Posada's business invests in people, in technology, in our brands, in distribution channels, in everywhere that we can, that we know that we add value. I've always thought that it's important for companies to really understand what they do better than others and what you're really good at. And in our case, it's that. No, it's really the side of the selling and commercial platform and the operational side of the business. So we're looking into bringing obviously people from different parts of the world to invest in Mexico in hotels. And yes, I know that interest rates are high right now, but the truth is that the hotel business is a very long term. You always have to go through different cycles. So it's a matter of, I would guess, a few years, which is not much in the cycle of a hotel, to start investing. And it has a lot to do with what's also happening in the market, which is growing.
Jose Carlos, we got to leave it there. Jose Carlos Asfaraga, CEO of Grupo Posadas, joining us from Miami.
All right, let's get a check on world and national news. Once again, we head over to D.C. and Amy Morris. Amy, all yours.
All right, thanks, Carol. I'm here for you. President Biden got a first-hand look today at efforts to clear away the remains of the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore.
I'm here to say your nation has your back, and I mean it. Your nation has your back.
The president took an aerial tour of the site and was briefed on the response and recovery efforts.
Amazon, Home Depot, Domino's Sugar, and many other companies all rely on this port. And they have committed to keep workers and payrolls on their businesses in Baltimore and move as quickly and clearly as possible in the channel.
The President Biden also called on every company in and around the port to commit to stay in the area, keeping their workers on the payroll. Maryland Governor Wes Moore also said he signed an executive order to provide $60 million in financial relief for those workers and businesses. The Army Corps of Engineers hopes to open a limited access channel for barge container ships and some vessels moving cars and farm equipment by the end of this month and to restore normal capacity to Baltimore's port by May 31st. The East Coast earthquake snarled travel by air, road, and rail around the region. Friday's quake was centered in northern New Jersey. It registered a magnitude of 4.8, shaking skyscrapers and suburbs across the northeastern U.S. for several seconds. It caused no major damage, but startled a lot of people in an area unaccustomed to these tremors. New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
Earthquakes don't happen every day in New York. So this can be extremely traumatic. The number of texts, calls, and inquiries that people sent out to not only our administration, but to family members checking on them. We know how this can impact you.
Geophysicists say it's considered a moderate quake. And global news 24 hours a day, whenever you want it, with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.
Get the news you need to start your day in just 15 minutes.
Now to the latest on the war in the Middle East.
Optimism that the Fed will be able to engineer a soft landing.
Wake up with Bloomberg Daybreak, U.S. edition.
The Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments tomorrow.
A lot of upsets in college basketball. Available now on your podcast feed.
Each weekday morning at 6 a.m.